Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to start the policy meeting because we're anything but punctual. So with that, I'm going to call the Policy Committee meeting of October 10, 2019 for Sacramento Metropolitan Fire District. I call that meeting to order. We will begin the meeting with a public opportunity to discuss matters of public interest on or not on the agenda within the scope of this committee. Are there any speaker cards, madam?
There are no speakers.
Shocking as that might be, let's move to consent agenda. I'll entertain a motion.
I so move.
Second.
Thank you. We're going to first and a second. Madam, please call the roll.
Director Clark.
Aye.
Barnes.
Aye.
And Gould.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you very much. We'll move now on to presentation items. It's a notice of parking violation policy update by Fire Marshal Barsdale.
Good evening, Directors, Chief Harms. I'm here to present an administrative policy update, so it's for information only. We are updating an old policy that was implemented in 2003. A lot of the changes we made, other than just updating the format, included a name change from fire prevention to community risk reduction, and then just some changes in procedures on how our citations are issued. So with that, if you have any questions, it's really just verbiage changes to our old policy.
Thank you. Members? What? I don't think, I read it, so let me ask a question.
Sure.
What is a policy, what is a citation going to cost the community?
They're $100 a citation.
Okay, so I think that needs to be clearly, I didn't see that number.
Okay.
But I think that needs to be clearly stated. If somebody was to look up what our policy is, that it tells them, for transparency's sake, that if you decide to park in such a way that you're going to get violated for that, that this is the impact it will have on your pocketbook.
Okay.
I didn't see it in there.
It's not the it references the fire code, and the bail schedule is included in the fire code.
Okay.
It covers infraction and misdemeanor fines both.
I don't know that our citizens, when they look it up here, would then dive that next rabbit hole.
Okay.
Versus us just pulling that up and having it available so that it's quickly referenced.
Okay.
And we're not sharing any of that with Sheriff's Office, are we?
They have their own parking enforcement.
Good.
Mr. Chair, if I may.
Yeah,
My
here we go.
question too is if we're asking to possibly embed that into the policy, as it changes, let's say the fees increase, do we have to change a policy every time as opposed to the bail schedule?
We do, but what I will say is that $100 fine has been here in place for the last 20 years at least, so it's pretty consistent.
Very good. Thank you.
All right, very good. I think this was for information only, correct? So no actions taken by this committee. With that, thank you very much for your time and efforts. With that, everything else on the agenda is to be determined. So at this point, let's go ahead and close this meeting. Thank you very much.
Good evening. Can everybody take their seats? Good evening. Tonight is Thursday, October 10th. This is the Sacramento Metropolitan Fire District Board of Directors regular meeting. I'd like to call this meeting to order, and I'd like to ask Director Gould to lead us in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We're pledging to the California flag. What's that about? Yeah, that's not good. We got to do it again. Preachers are learning. You want to do it again? Okay.
We're good. All right, Metro Cable announcement. The open session meeting is videotaped for Cablecast on Metro Cable 14, replay on Monday, October 14th at 6 p.m. and Tuesday, October 15th at 9 a.m. on Channel 14. Webcast at www.sacmetrocable.tv. The open session meetings are also available for viewing on the district website at www.metrofire.ca.gov. I wanted to make an announcement in regards to tonight's closed session agenda. We'll be removing item number 1, conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation. So when we adjourn to closed session, we will only be discussing items 2 and 3. I'd like to move on to the public opportunity to discuss matters of public interest within the district's jurisdiction, including items on or not on the agenda. Madam Clerk, do we have any speakers?
We do have one speaker this evening, Mr. Roger Mitchell.
Wonderful. Welcome, Roger.
Good evening, board members, chief, administration, and ladies and gentlemen of MetroFire. I rise tonight with thank yous. We had our fundraiser for the restoration of Rio Linda's second ever fire engine, as well as the firehouse. And we had a couple of world-class speakers that I want to tell you about and thank. The first speaker we had that evening was our supervisor, Supervisor Frost. She gave her address to the audience in a little different way, and I might let Chief Harms tell you how she did that. Then when Chief Harms spoke, Chief, I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart. It's always a pleasure. The community loves seeing you there. And I would tell you what the chief had to say about, in conjunction with what he's doing with Sue Frost on the building and the resolution that this board passed, a couple of meetings past, is going to be very helpful. So I thank this board as a whole. I would like to thank Director Ted Woods, who was in attendance. You have always helped this effort in many ways that I know that you know about and I know about, and I know you continue to do that. Without that specific help, this wouldn't be possible, so thank you for that. Director Kelly, you've been almost to all of our fundraising dinners, and I remember with fondness, I think you won our door prize at our first fundraising dinner, and it was a turkey for Thanksgiving dinner.
And a magnum of red wine.
Yes, sir.
He remembers that.
And to share with you, this year our door prize was a 55-inch color TV, so we're gaining speed here. And Director Kelly participated in our auction and was very successful, and I thank you for that very much, Director. Director Cynthia Sailors was there, and we appreciate your support, Cynthia. And this whole board, you've all stepped up and you've bought tickets, not knowing if you can be there or not. And so without that support, projects like this wouldn't dare happen. But one last thing I'd like to tell you about this dinner. What you don't see in the background maybe is that there are members of this fire district that make this dinner possible and this restoration project. And I'd like to read their names and tell you who they are. Scott Courtney, he was a master mechanic for you at the maintenance facility. And yes, Chief, he had a new hat on this year. Rob Driver, one of our reservists. He's also part of the kitchen crew and helps very much with the restoration project. and helps us a lot with gifts for our, shall we say, our auction endeavor. Dennis Berry, one of the reservists, he's part of the kitchen crew and helps with the restoration work. Mr. Mark Siebert was not there this year. He was participating in the air show that this district always steps up for, but he is also one of the members that works very diligently to help with these fundraisers and in the restoration work. Terry Barnes, some of you know that name. He's the gentleman that he was a reservist and is the person that most all the time drives old Betsy, Rio Linda's first fire truck, when she's requested for the district as well as for events. And I know Supervisor Sue Frost, why whenever she needs a ride in a parade, why she always requests that it's on that fire engine and nothing else. So I think we can be proud of that our supervisor is so proud of that. Last but not least, the resolution that this board passed a couple of weeks ago, I thank you from the bottom of my heart, because that has also led to Supervisor Frost working with the chief, and she will be working with the entire Board of Supervisors to pass alike resolutions. I know Director Jim Barnes is working with her also. So, and then I was also asked by Director Ozali to address the board. It's the Public Safety Foundation, and they are also working on a resolution like the one that this board passed. So with these type of people and organizations stepping up, I think that finally, at least on the station, the light at the end of the tunnel is not a train. I mean, we have it's going to be a success. And I would share one last thing about the station with you that I think I've shared before, but I think it needs to be repeated. Anytime you can have an old fire station, regardless of where it's at, but was built with World War II War Powers Act money, I think it's worth saving. And the engine as well as the station won't just represent Rio Linda because that's where it's at. It's going to represent this entire district because they're a predecessor of this district. So I'm proud that those two things will represent this district. So I'm certainly prepared to answer any questions or listen to any comments and be interested in what Chief Harms has to say, how Director Sue Frost had to give her speak that evening. So with that, any comments or questions I'm prepared to answer.
Anybody?
The guys that prepared the food, they did a fantastic job. I enjoyed a very nice meal that evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Director. And that's a direct, those are men that work for this fire district. They not only volunteer on this project, they're employees of this fire district. So.
And as a record, that's the second time I've been in jail, and I'm getting a little tired of it, okay?
Can I tell you a quick story if I don't take too much time?
Yes.
Our one world-class speaker told me that, he was arrested last year, and he didn't want to be arrested again this year. And I think he was serious. So I went to the Keystone cops and I said, look, this is a no-no. And they looked at me and said, ha-ha, yeah, you're going to suffer the consequences, Roger. So anyway, Chief, I publicly apologize to you. I had nothing to do with that. I did my best and I am prepared to pay my pittance.
Okay,
so,
thank you, Roger.
Yes, thank you.
Moving on to the consent items, are there any questions from board members?
Madam Chair, I'd move the consent.
Second.
Madam Clerk, we have a first and a second. Will you please call roll?
Dr. Sailors.
Aye.
Gould.
Aye.
Kelly.
Aye.
Wood.
Aye.
Clark.
Aye.
Barnes.
Aye.
And Sheets.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Moving on to presentation item, Milo and Moxie Preschool Education Program Overview. Ms. Diana Schmidt, our fire inspector. Welcome to the podium.
Good evening, directors, chief, and staff. I am Fire Inspector Diana Schmidt, also the Acting Supervisor of Community Services. CRRD is proud to, sorry, let me start it. There we go. All right. CRD is proud to introduce a new fire safety education program, Milo and Moxie Smart Safety Rangers. The heart of the program is actually the story of Milo and Moxie. Milo is the corgi, and Moxie is the hummingbird. and the story tours around their home where they identify various fire dangers and potential burn injuries. This story is told in rhyme, and it's easy to follow for children. It's beautifully colored, and it quickly attracts their attention. The really nice thing about the story is it can actually be modified to accommodate a wide range of ages, from kindergarten, preschool, all the way through 4th or 5th grade. With the preschool and kindergartners, we'd probably only read maybe a couple of pages, really having them focus on the simple lesson of what's hot or what's not. And then as we go through the older kids, 2nd and 3rd grade, we'd have them listen to a smoke alarm and then identify what to do, different lessons such as get out and stay out. And then lastly, with the older kids, 4th and 5th grade, we'd actually have them do comprehensive problem solving and identify multiple ways out of their own home. The program actually was the brainchild of the Arizona Burn Foundation. They were looking at their own burn program and recognized that it was missing really important fire safety messages. So they developed an entire program, not just the Milo and Moxie story. The program included teaching guides, interactive big books, flashcards, activity books, and they even created an animated version of the Milo and Moxie story. They developed the program a couple of years ago, and let's see if I'm locked up. There we go. And in Arizona, they've already partnered with over 40 fire departments and have issued the program to over 140,000 children in Arizona. Luckily, due to our Arizona connections,
What?
the Arizona Burn Foundation approached MetroFire with the opportunity to spread the program beyond Arizona into California, specifically MetroFire. We've obviously wholeheartedly agreed to the partnership, and we're going to be partnering with them to launch the program to over 10,000 children, and the Arizona Burn Foundation has agreed to provide 50% of all of the Milo and Moxie materials to meet that 10,000 children launch. Within MetroFire, we decided to initiate the launch to all of our MetroFire preschools. What you're seeing is a representation of all of the preschools and their locations within our district. It represents over 200 preschools in our jurisdiction. We sent the letter in September to every single one of the preschools offering to have CRD staff provide the Milo and Moxie presentation, and so far we've received over 70 responses from that letter. Those responses have been returned. We have them scheduled for this month of October, and that is actually going to account for over 2,600 children that we're reaching. The materials that that are part of the program is all of our CRD staff, which is the majority of the work is going to be done by our community services representatives. All 2 of them are going to be doing most of the heavy lifting on this program. We do have a couple of fire inspectors that are also going to be covering these presentations, and they're going to be armed with a presenter's kit that was developed by the Arizona Burn Foundation. It has a giant oversized spiral notebook that has kind of interactive elements with it where the kids can identify hot things throughout the room. There's also a teaching guide, and then flashcards to get the kids involved. Each of the teachers will be getting to keep within their classroom a big book so they continue the education, especially to the little ones. Since we're only going to be building maybe one of the lessons at a time, they can continue throughout the year to build on those lessons learned. They'll also get a teaching guide, how to interact with the different children, the different ages, and what to present. And then lastly, the classroom will get a rules poster identifying all the different lessons that are learned in the program. Fun stuff. Each of the students will be taking home MetroFire swag. They'll be getting a mini reader to take home, which is the entire Milo and Moxie story, just in a little mini version. They'll also get a MetroFire plastic helmet, a MetroFire badge sticker, and a Milo and Moxie badge sticker. All of those are to encourage the conversation at home so that the conversation can continue beyond just the classroom and they can continue to get that at home. The program was actually launched yesterday, October 9th, the date of the Great Chicago Fire, and the reason we have Fire Prevention Week. This was at Kingswood Elementary in Citrus Heights. We started the program, obviously, just to preschool kids, but as you can imagine, once the letters got into a school that it serves all the way through 8th grade, The interest spread. So this was, while it went to the preschools, was a representation of their, two preschools, 2 kindergartens, 2 first grades, and 2 second grade classes in a split first-second, which totaled over 250 kids. We were luckily able to convince 31A to come over and do a turnout demonstration. And then we split up into groups, reading the story, reinforcing the video that they saw of the Milo and Moxie cartoon. We're not only going to be continuing this program with our preschools, but we're going to do ongoing outreach. This last weekend at the California Capitol Air Show, we handed out the Milo and Moxie mini readers. We were able to hand them out over 250, almost 300 of those there. We're also forming a partnership with Safetyville. End of this month, they're having a Halloween haunt where last year they reached over 1,700 people attended. So we're providing them enough Milo and Moxie materials for over 1,000 kids. The Fire Foundation applied for a TOT grant, and we'll be finding out if we're going to attain that later this year. It will be for an additional 10,000 readers and to reach that additional kids. Ironically, Safetyville actually also applied for the TOT grant. They're going to be redesigning one of their small little houses to tie into the exact same Milo and Moxie items, where they're going to have a house that has various fire dangers and burn dangers, and then they're going to be able to get a Milo and Moxie mini reader when they leave that house. So we'll be able to combine with them to enforce that message. And then further into probably next year, early next year, we're going to send another letter to our first and second grade classes, also inviting them for us to come out and present. And then lastly, we're going to be training our crews probably later this year. We want to make sure that they're familiar with the messaging, what we're saying, and they'll have that additional resource as they go out into the community, something else that community services can provide, and they'll know how to present it. So we're delivering consistent messaging, and that they know that Should I talk louder?
Yeah, sorry.
Just, this was the last sentence anyway, I guess I was cut off. Just so that we have consistent messaging and that our crews will be able to deliver that message, and that our ongoing desire to provide this community outreach and education in our schools will be reinforced. Thank you. Do you have any questions or concerns?
I think I want to give you a hand.
Absolutely.
Good job.
Yes, I have a question. In Rio Linda at their library, we have a reading time, and I've been looking for material to go to give the kids for their reading time. This would actually
Absolutely.
be wonderful.
If there's particular presenters that are often the reader of that, we can do a train the trainer and teach you the lessons for the different kids.
Perfect.
We can also provide you the teaching guide that'll break down
Thank
the
you.
different ages.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Excellent.
Director.
Thank you.
Thank you for that presentation. Thank you. All right, moving on to action item 2019 Hazardous Materials Emergency Preparedness. Ms. Erin Castleberry, welcome to the podium.
Good evening, directors. I am happy to be here tonight to request the acceptance of a fiscal year 2019 Hazardous Materials Emergency Preparedness Grant in the amount of $16,673. This funding will be used for the development of a hazmat incident response plan, specifically related to the bulk transportation and storage of energy products, and will cover some personnel costs to develop that plan. So I can answer any questions you might have. Otherwise, I would recommend that the board approve the acceptance resolution and the budget amendment.
Any questions?
Madam Chair, I would move staff's recommendation on the preparedness
I'll
grant.
second that.
I have a motion and I have a second. Can you please call the roll?
Director Sailors,
Aye.
Gould,
Aye.
Kelly,
Aye.
Wood,
Aye.
Clark,
Aye.
Barnes,
Aye.
and Sheets.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to the President's report. I have a couple of items. I just wanted to thank Director Kelly for chairing the meeting last meeting so that I can attend a family matter. And I wanted to remind the board members of the special meeting for our strategic planning on November 9th. Moving on to Fire Chief's report. Chief Harms.
Good evening, board members. First off, I just want to thank Lisa and Diana and all of the staff on CRD is that it's been a project that they have been working on for a little while of putting all this together and the training. And it's not like they have enough stuff going on every single day, but nobody has complained, and they have done a great job of organizing. I was able to sit in this week when they did Train the Trainer and listen to it and watch the video and stuff, and I'm just really excited with what they were able to do with that. So thank you for taking on this project. Today, Jeff Fry and I had our first conference call with Holland and Knight. We had talked about with Cap to Cap and some of the legislative stuff, having them as our support. It was a very good conference call. It was the very first one to kind of lay out expectations, both on a national level and at a state level, and for them to kind of give us a snapshot of what was happening really right now in D.C. and what some of the initial timelines look like moving forward. As far as promotions, on October 1st, Battalion Chief Carl Simmons was promoted. I believe Carl is going to Battalion 5, correct? He is going to Battalion 5. As far as retirement, on September 27th, Battalion Chief J.P. Savani retired with 17 years of service. And then on October 4th, Captain Jim Mendez retired. Jim had 32 years of service and ended his career in training at the very end then. On Saturday, September 28th, was the California Firefighters Memorial. I just want to thank everybody that was out there at the memorial. It was just very well attended, and a lot of folks from MetroFire representing just in uniform, part of the honor guard that was out there, and our own captain, Andy Whaley, was part of the overall team that puts that together just every single year, from everything from the family support for being able to come in to the honor guard to making sure that we all stand in straight lines when we march. But it was a great program that was put together that dedicated to the sacrifice and dedication of our fallen brother and sister firefighters. Saw a few of you over the weekend on both Saturday and Sunday out at the Capitol Air Show. It was a great turnout that was out there. Just my own assessment walking around, either it was equal to or more folks than I even think that was there last year. But I just want to talk about Jason Vestal, Chris Green that is here today, and Tyler Wagaman. They really put in just a ton of time on the operational side of having the CERT team out there, having EMS staff that was out there, along with our booths that we had out there, and then Chris managed all of the operational side for all the aircraft that was out there. So they all had a very long weekend that was out there. On the 5th, as Roger said, we went to the old fundraiser. Sue Frost was arrested and put into jail and was made to give her speech from jail. I did spend some time with Matt Kelly, and I think Ted and his daughter spent some time in there also, like 3 times. But it all went to a good cause as far as making money, but very well attended. And then the next day, the Firefighter Association had a Oktoberfest. And again, very well attended and built towards the family. Bring your kids, face painting, and everything that happened there too. Coming up shortly on the 16th, a good friend of mine is the fire chief in Las Vegas. Willie McDonald is his name. He's coming over with his executive staff and along with his local. And we're going to spend the day talking about fire operations, EMS, ambulance transportation. I've invited Trevor and Local 522 to attend that also. The cancer awareness, kind of October and November has traditionally been a cancer awareness. They wrapped our engine again, Engine 32 this year. It was out at the air show, and then we'll be doing the rounds. And Chris Vestal has been working really nonstop with connecting with the Kings and a number of events. And then I'd just like to say thanks to the crews that are either switching out of the vehicle to be into it or are taking that vehicle and going out. I know last year Director Gould asked for us to do, I think, a truck company and the helicopter as far as wrapping it, and we're not doing that. But we did with that suggestion as Chris Vestal came back. Is Chris even here? Where's he at? He's back there. we're putting a sticker on each of the apparatus, a door sticker that is kind of changes from the regular sticker to colored with pink and blue. And so companies are coming through for training right now for ACLS, and so they're putting those stickers that are on there also. And, you know, as we look at those things, you kind of ask yourself, what did we do this year? What things did we do besides this month? We have done a number of things with the members about wearing their SCBAs and looking at exposure, reducing exposure. We'll be coming to you shortly with a recommendation for the purchase of gloves and hoods. And part of the hoods is a barrier now that's built into the hoods to keep the products of combustion from one of the areas that was noticed for exposures with hoods. So it's a hood that it costs more money, but in the long run, it provides you better protection, not for that moment when you're going to get burned on the fire ground, but for that exposure for long-term type stuff. The other thing is Local 522 has put together a group, and a member of ours, Kevin Summers, is representing Metro 2522 for cancer reduction, prevention, what things are we doing to be able to take care of ourselves as we move forward. We've got all that stuff. That ends my report, unless you have any questions.
Any questions? No. All right. Moving on to the operations report. Chief Lozano.
Good evening, directors, fire chief, Madam Board Clerk. My name is Mike Lozano. I'm a battalion chief here with MetroFire, currently serving in the role of shift commander for A shift. I'll have your ops report tonight. Between the last time we reported out and today, we've run a total of 7,776 calls. 2,792 of them were between Metro and AMR. Those were EMS calls. We transported 70% of those. With all those calls for service, 12 building fires. We've had our busiest medic was medic 53, no surprise. And busiest engine was engine 53, again, not a surprise. Deployments over the last couple of days, we had the dozer deploy to St. Helena up in the Napa area for the high wind warnings, the red flag warnings over the last couple of days. We expect them there until tomorrow morning when they'll be released and coming back. We've also deployed a strike team, OES strike team. We've deployed the strike team leader as well as provided the strike team leader trainee and OES 8433, a total of 6 members on that strike team. They went down to the Bryceburg incident in Mariposa. That incident started on October 8th, and as of this morning, it was 4,900 acres and 25% contained. Also, we did a live fire training burn over between September 30th through October 2nd. Some of you were out there. It was quite a big event the night that we did the live fire. That training included hose operations, search and rescue operations, ladder operations, roof ops, as well as the live fire itself. Concluded, we began that live fire about 2,200 hours that night, and there was quite the crowd as well as the media there. That concludes my ops report, unless you have any questions for me.
Any questions? No. Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Moving on to firefighters local 522, Trevor.
Good evening, directors, chief arms, and staff. I think just listening tonight, and it's always my pleasure to be up here and represent the members, the quality of the people that we have, the individuals, and that as a group just put together a great team. You hear about Andy Whaley down at the Capitol for the memorial. He does a fantastic job. You hear about members out there cooking at a community event. There's a great report by Diana tonight. So there's just a wide swath of people here doing different things, and it is truly my pleasure to represent those members to you twice a month. One of the things that, when I got this position, I think one of the things that struck me the most was how all of a sudden I was thrust into this arena of mental health. I don't pretend to understand what causes everything or what other people's struggles are, but all I know is in this agency and in the fire service, we want to help each other. We're very fortunate that I think we have a local and a fire chief that's a big supporter of it. But also we're fortunate because our past president, Brian Rice, is now CPF president. And since our last meeting, we've had 2 pieces of legislation that were signed into law by Governor Newsom. One is a peer support confidentiality for firefighters to know they can go talk to a peer supporter and have confidentiality. And the second one is for post-traumatic stress injury as being for workers' comp. And I think it's very important that we recognize that, one, that we need that. And I think it's also great it's coming out of Sacramento. It's coming out of Local 522. It's coming out of a MetroFire member. And to even go even further on that, today we are fortunate to go sit down in Elk Grove at a Pete's Coffee with Ami Berra, myself, and Chris Andrew from the city, and Mike Fye, who's the Director of Membership Services. And to sit down there and talk where he's working on the HERO Act. I think you've heard of helping emergency responders overcome. And that's how do we study suicide rates and how do we do things with the peer-to-peer support. And right now it's been referred to committee, but it's a lot of that stuff started with conversations from members of MetroFire, whether it be staff or members of the local. And I just wanted to call attention to that again, that I think as we move forward, there's a lot out there, and like I said, it's big and it's vast, but it's important that I think we put it out there on the floor that we're there to help, and we'll do what we can to help both the local. I know the board will. I know the chief will as well. So again, I always appreciate that support. And I know the board has the members' best interests at heart. So thank you for that. Unless you have any questions.
Any questions? Thank you, sir. All right, moving on to committee and delegate reports. The executive committee, I have nothing to report, and we do not have a meeting scheduled. Communication Center, JPA, Chief Wagaman?
Nope.
No?
No report.
Oh, no report. All right. I guess the next meeting is October 22nd. California Fire and Rescue Training, JPA, Chief Shannon.
Good evening. Just a couple of numbers for the JPA. We met September 19th and went over their training report, which they came up with some goals for the fiscal year 1920. A couple of those goals were they wanted to look at classes they wanted to offer and ballpark a number of students they wanted to train. Those numbers were 129 classes they want to offer this year with 1,875, almost 2,000 students trained. The good news is we're trending appropriately where they want to go. 94 of those 129 classes have already been scheduled for the rest of the fiscal year. They have 22 classes so far, and they've trained a number of students, 358 so far. Besides all that goals and training that they're doing other things. Currently, MetroFire employees, basically the whole district, through the month of October, is here every day, training, getting recerted in ACLS, which the JPA is assisting with and putting that on. So they have a lot of irons in the fire. They're doing much more training besides just the classes that they want to move forward with. So just to pass along that message of when Chief Arms and some of the other staff were at their strategic plan, they're moving forward with what they want to do. And we're pretty happy with that, and we can't wait to see where we're going to move the rest of the year. Thanks.
Any questions? Thank you, sir. All right, moving on to Finance and Audit Committee, Director Kelly.
The Finance and Audit Committee will meet again on October 24th.
All right, Policy Meeting, Director Gould.
Policy Committee met this evening and received an administrative update on a policy relative to parking in red zones and getting a citation. Bad idea to do that. That's all.
All right, we'll move on to board member questions and comments. We will start with, let's start over Mr. Barnes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just real quick, the presentation with Milo and Moxie, it's neat. As my daughter, I have her come home and I listen that she's being taught about active shooter response. And as a 10-year-old, we are in that world, but to see that we're back in there actually teaching something that's every day can harm kids. So thank you for that presentation. It's neat that we can get back to the pure honesty of children and some of the the hazards that truly face him right now. We do have that as a reality, but this is more often. So thank you for that. And I'm glad we have those relationships and connections in Arizona. So thank you for that. The power outages, the only thing I want to say about that is we have members here that I guarantee, and it was great to hear that people are looking out for one another. Their own homes with power outages, and their families are left to kind of fend for themselves as people have to show them still provide a service of work. So I'm glad to hear tonight and hearing what some of the things are being done to take care of the members, take care of each other, and allow them to take care of their homes. Final thing I want to talk about, Trevor Jameson, thank you for bringing up the mental health awareness. I always say it's near and dear to my heart as well in my profession. And when you think about what the members see on a day-to-day, whether it's a car crash, a house burn, or something they respond to, and they get to go home to those families, and at the dinner table they go, how was your day? A lot of times they don't want to talk about what they saw. They want to move on. And so sometimes it buries over. Now you had a 30-year career that you've been burying it, and it rises up when it shouldn't. So I'm glad to hear that we're kind of the tip of the spear with Brian Rice and a local member also starting that. So I'm glad to hear we're on the forefront of that to getting the memberships the help that they need. On that, thank you for the time. I appreciate the membership, the retirees, and the promotions. It's great to hear people are moving on. Thank you.
Director Clark.
Yes, I'm going to make this real short. I just want to thank Fire Marshal Lisa Barksdale. She is so responsive whenever I have an issue with a constituent or anybody like that. She is right on the spot. I know I want you to know publicly that I appreciate your prompt response in handling those issues for me. Thank you.
Great. Director Wood.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just a couple of things. Roger, thanks again for the hospitality. Congratulations on the funding you do, and the volunteers. All their work is absolutely amazing. And I actually do hope that my 8-year-old somehow soon outgrows that penchant and desire to be in jail. I don't want her to have that for much longer.
Take care of that.
Her. Excuse me, take care of her.
That's a good thing.
Inspector Schmidt, thank you for the presentation. It was absolutely incredible. Looking forward to that rollout and hearing sometime down the road all the successes that you've had with that rollout. So thank you. And it's wonderful. I want to publicly thank Representative Barra. It was great to hear from you, Trevor, that he's got that HERO Act that he's promoting, and hopefully we can do whatever we can do to make that happen in the end. That's a great role. Lastly, Chief Wagaman, Chief Mitchell, I just want to thank you guys for the hospitality at the Denny's Burn. That was quite fascinating. It was great to see that, and I'm very pleased that the tool firefighter turned out to be all right. That was quite a scare there initially, but it was exciting. One thing that was mentioned a moment ago, and I'll close with this, is we talk about our quality individuals. We have so many people that do stuff every day behind the scenes that never get recognized. And at that incident, the Denny's incident, we need to recognize. I want to recognize Chief Lozano. There was a group of kids from Del Campo High School's fire tech program and their teacher to see this and watch it. I don't know if he learned of it himself or somebody brought it to his attention, but all of a sudden, Chief Lozano's got those kids on the other side of the fence with us, and he's walking them through, taking them to the brief, and teaching them everything, pointing things out. He had these kids were just, you could see the eyes, the excitement in their eyes, and the thrill, and everything that Chief Lozano was saying. They were listening, they were watching, they were really excited about what was going on, and it's people like that and opportunities like that that are going to help us down the road with additional firefighters and membership. So thanks, Chief, for all that you did. Thank you.
Yeah. Director Sailors.
Good evening. I would just like to welcome new BC Carl Simmons to Battalion 5. That's my district. And I'd also like to recognize this month as being the Cancer Month, the Awareness Month. Being a retired firefighter, I have a couple of friends right now that I worked with for many years that are both fighting cancer. So I would strongly advise everyone out there, stay safe, wear your safety gear, wash up after a fire as soon as you can. Stay safe out there, please. Try to avoid getting cancers. It's no fun. Thank you, that's all.
Director Gould.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Just want to thank everyone that participated in the air show. Thank you very much for the hospitality. You all did a wonderful job. It was really nice to see us continue to show up CAL FIRE. That was really cool. And then everybody else's comments, I ditto that. And then I just really want to just thank every one of you that do such a wonderful job. And I think Director Kelly said it best: is there's so much, or Director was there's so much work that goes on around here that just never really gets recognized. And we're attentive to it. We know that you're doing it, and we're very proud that you do it. So thank you very much. Keep up the good work. A lot of great presentations this evening too. So thank you very much.
Director Kelly?
I would again like to thank Inspector Schmidt for her presentation, and I think this program is fabulous. You guys, I thought California would be sending this to Arizona, but apparently it's not to be this time. I would also like to thank everybody that was involved with the burn at Denny's. I think I spent several hours out there and was out there far later than I probably should have been. But being retired, you can do those kind of things. It was pretty fascinating. Not knowing what to expect, but then knowing that, MetroFire wouldn't do it any other way. I thought it was very well done. It was something that many members of the public came out to see, and it was nice to see the interest there. Everybody's a pyro inside, I guess, right? But nonetheless, it was a great event, and I appreciate the work that everybody put into that effort. And the ALS walk was a big success. Thank you for those of you that helped me out on that, and I look forward to the 9th for our strategic planning. That's an early event, right?
Yeah, I think it is. Melanie? Yeah. All right. I just wanted to say congratulations on Mr. Simmons on his promotion, and best wishes on retiree Cervante and Mendez. And we will adjourn to closed session.